What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to take a look at something that came out yesterday regarding E3's digital event. And this comes from Tom Henderson, and basically, it's that there's going to be a digital E3 this year. Pretty not confirmed, but pretty close as you can probably get to confirmed. I'll read out his tweets, and we'll go from there. E3 will be an entirely digital event again this year, according to the ESRB, who sent out emails to developers today. I guess this squashes the rumors that they were going to cancel it. I'd be expecting an announcement soon if the ESRB is sending out emails. Now, I want to talk about that in particular too, because what I think is getting a little lost in translation, I like Tom, but what I think is kind of getting lost is there were never definitive rumors that E3's digital version of itself was canceled. There was, I believe, back in maybe it was January, that the actual physical in-person event of E3 was already called off. They called it off. They said, we're not doing it this year. I made a video, and I even said, I think it's too early to call something like that off, considering it's so far away. I honestly think even right now, I could very much envision an in-person E3 this June. I think it would be more than possible, especially with the, certain things around the world going down, right, and not being as impactful. I really think it's way more possible now than it would have been a couple months ago, but you just kind of have to see ahead, and you could have figured that out. Anyway, so you had that. Now, with that, okay, with those headlines that, the in-person E3 was canceled, and that's official. They had said that. There was also the talk about the digital E3. Obviously, we got the digital E3 last year, which a lot of people are making fun of and picking at. I mean, I didn't like it, overall, but I do think Xbox had a phenomenal showing. I think Nintendo actually did really good as well. Those two, I think, held it up. Everybody else, wasn't that impressive, and then everybody else besides those groups didn't even show up. I've been very violently against the idea of E3 in general in terms of the name E3. I don't think you actually need what would be considered E3 or how it's run specifically. I honestly think you could do it differently and still achieve pretty much the same results. I'm not against the idea of a week-long, just a gaming convention. I think that's incredible. I think the premise of that is awesome, but really E3 has been a shell of its former self for not just during this last 2 years, for the past 5, 6, 7 years, really. So, I'm not so much caring about it, to be honest with you. I obviously love announcements. I love getting things gaming related, but I don't think it needs to be branded E3. I think there is a world where Summer Game Fest, where companies on their own can do things, and maybe there needs to be something that ties them all together, sure, but I really don't think it needs to be considered E3. That's in my opinion. But it seems like from what Tom says, there will be a digital E3. The people that were saying there's not going to be a digital E3 were wrong. It seems like that's almost a direct shot at Jeff Grubb, who, trust me, I don't really care if he's right or wrong, but Jeff Grubb never said outright the digital E3 was canceled. In fact, he said it could be canceled, but it could just be companies that normally show something in June. They could just kind of limp their way into a digital E3. So kind of making it sound like this year's E3 could be easily the worst out there, because it's just going to be leftovers. It's going to be these companies that really don't want to do it and that are kind of maybe even obligated to do it, right? That's what it seems like. In fact, actually, Jeff Grubb tweeted something today that said EA seems like they're out. They're not doing an EA Play, but there is one big company that normally does it, that will do it. I would imagine that's either Ubisoft or Microsoft, one of those two. Again, I don't really care as of right now. We'll see as we get over the next couple of weeks. But no, as I said, I want something in June. June is obviously synonymous with a week-long kind of celebration of gaming in terms of showing all this stuff. So, of course, I want announcements. Of course, I want new games. I want things to be shown. But again, I just don't necessarily know if I need it to be E3. And right now, it still seems like it's kind of too early to tell. Now, Jeff Grubb says next week he should have more on it. Tom just says, I'd be expecting an announcement soon. So maybe next week, maybe sometime as we get closer to April. You have to imagine it's soon, because it's normally that June 8th through 12th kind of area, somewhere in that range. Sometimes it's a little bit later than that, but it's normally kind of early mid-June that E3 takes place. Again, whatever version of E3 we're talking about, that's when it normally takes place. So if in order for that to happen, I think it needs to be announced over the next month just to get people ready, even though we can't go. And that's another thing. While I don't like the idea of an E3, I actually would like to, at one point in my life, go to one of these. Obviously, the last couple of years have made it impossible to. But once things settle down at some point in our lives, I would like to go to one of these events. So that would be cool. I will give them that. Physically going would be cool. And I actually think people online are pretty upset more than anything on the fact that it's not in person, that you lose something, you lose some of that magic or that spirit when you're not in person. I agree. I definitely do agree. I think it did have a leg up when it was in person. But like I said, I don't think it's been what people remember it being or being as impactful as when people talk about how great or how impactful E3 is, I really think they're talking about the E3s of like 7 to 10 years ago, not the E3s of the last like half decade or more. I just don't think they're talking about those. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up, and I hope to see you all on tomorrow's video.